Each new horrific discovery in Ukraine sparks global outrage and accusations that Russia is committing war crimes, even genocide. Officials in Mariupol say they have identified mass graves just outside the city, evidence, they say, that Moscow is trying to hide a mass slaughter of civilians. But it's not just there, by the way, and we want to warn you that the image we're about to show you is very, very graphic. After Russian troops pulled back from Bucha, scores of civilians were found shot to death in the streets. Others were buried in mass graves. The UN says that it has documented dozens of unlawful killings. And in Kyiv, in the Kyiv region, the police chief says that nearly 1,100 bodies have been examined by investigators. All of them, by the way, civilians. The overwhelming majority of them killed by small arms. Joining me live now to talk about this is Heather Conley. She's president of the German Marshall Fund and a former U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State. Welcome, Heather. Is what we're witnessing on the ground in Ukraine a genocide?
Zainab, that's a legal determination, and that will have to go through rigorous investigation. But that does not prevent the West, Europe, the United States, the world to react as strongly as possible to these blatant violations of the laws against armed conflict. Many of these rules were developed through European wars to prevent exactly these types of violations from happening. So it is. I think it's going to be just a matter of time until the United States government and other governments do make that legal determination. Clearly, President Biden has already believes in his heart of hearts that it already is a genocide. But again, what's happening on the ground, from whether these are unverified or not, the Russian forces, the Russian military, this complete dehumanization of what they're doing, the professionalization, and we're going to see this continue in the weeks to come. It's going to be absolutely unimaginable and horrific.
Yeah, because we actually just played an audio recording that appears to show Russian soldiers ordering the killings of Ukrainian prisoners of war. As Vladimir Putin gets more desperate to win this, what sort of desperation might we see in terms of the way the Russians might lash out?
Well, I think this is even before, the plan A failed of toppling the Ukrainian government and now moving to this plan B of securing Donbass, this land bridge between Russia and Crimea, and now potentially threatening Transnistria in Moldova as well. This is not a president that views anyway in desperation. He believes he is living his own rightful history, meaning to restore what is termed as Novorossiya and the subjugation of Ukraine, parts of potentially Moldova and Belarus under Russian subjugation. So he believes this is the rightful belief of his own role in history in undoing the catastrophe of the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Speaking of history, in 2008, the world watched as Russia invaded Georgia. Many people are now saying that, listen, Putin viewed that as a green light, that he could do something like that without other Western countries necessarily intervening. Why was Europe so slow? Why was their response so muted during that invasion? And if they had responded differently, might this particular war be different?
You're absolutely right. I think if we could replay history, having devastating sanctions in 2008, when Russia did the exact same thing to Georgia, would have been certainly a much stronger message. Unfortunately, the Obama administration reset the U.S.-Russian relationship a year after 2008. There weren't punishing sanctions. And in many ways, you're right. Putin understood that, yes, there may be a little bit of a setback or some pain, but that the United States and Europe will always need Russia for something else, for economic strength to resolve challenges like Iran or North Korea or elsewhere. We simply wish to not see this encroachment and violation of international laws and norms. And of course, 14 years later, we see the complete and painful manifestation of this. It is only now that Europe is changing its energy dependency on Europe. It is only now that the Biden administration is really flowing those heavy weapons that Ukraine needs to defend its own territory. So you're absolutely right. There needs to be some deep soul searching in many capitals of why we looked away, why we didn't see this, because Mr. Putin's been explaining to this is what he's wanted to do for many, many years, and we simply did not want to see it or act accordingly.
And with other countries that are sort of former Soviet republics, especially just given that, I mean, this is so brazen, especially given that Putin obviously knew that these very, very harsh sanctions were coming as a result of this invasion, and he still went ahead and did it anyway. For countries like Georgia, which we just talked about, and Moldova in particular, they see this and they think, what? How concerned, how fearful, how worried should they be?
We just hosted a few days ago, Moldovan Foreign Minister Nico Popescu, a very important conversation. Look, they're trying to balance. They are balancing this relationship they have with Moscow, not wanting to create a situation where Russia takes bigger steps. They are supporting Ukraine as best they can, understanding that they need solidarity. Moldova has formally submitted its questionnaire to formally begin the process of joining the European Union. They've banned the Z, the Z, the St. George ribbon. They are trying to ban these provocative symbols, but this is a very precarious moment for them. And so they're trying to balance. Georgia is trying to balance. This is why the West needs a much more forward-leaning position to make sure that Moldova can defend its territory, Georgia can defend its territory, and eventually we have to see Russian forces removed from the territory of Georgia, from Moldova, and from Ukraine. This is now a regional-wide solution that we have to start crafting, this post-war settlement. But of course, that requires Ukraine to be successful and push and repel Russian forces. And this is, of course, the Kremlin accepting defeat. And we know the Kremlin will not accept defeat, and Ukraine will not accept surrender or subjugation. So we are at this very difficult moment.
All right, Heather Conley, live for us. Thank you so much.